वागीशाद्याः सुरंसः सर्वार्थानां उपक्षणे यन्नत्वा हृदयत्यास्वस्तनां गजाननम् शारदा शारदां भोजवदना वदनाम्बुजे सर्वदा सर्वदास्माकं सन्निधिं क्रियात् शारदां चन्द्रमौलीशं रत्नदर्भगणेश्वरं शङ्करं चर्षशृङ्गेशं तुङ्गां लोकविरोधिधरे सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां शास्त्राभ्यपारदृष्टानं सन्दहीनं तपोनिधिं भजे श्रीभारतीयतीर्थगुरुं भद्रौघदायकम् विभुवज्जगदानन्दसन्धायी गुरुशेखरः मानसे सन्निधत्तां मे विधुशेखरभारती अरुणां करुणातरङ्गिताक्षीं धृतपाशङ्कुशपुष्पवाण्यचापाम् अणिमादिभिरावृतां मयूखैः अहमित्येव विभावये पवन्. Offering my Sashtanga Pranamas to the Lalitha Gurus. It is both a blessing and a seeming inconvenience in Sanatana Dharma that the most valuable bits of knowledge or the most valuable aspects of our culture are handed to us at a very young age without us understanding that we have been given something very valuable. We grow up hearing the phrase, Bhagavan is one, he takes many forms. We grow up hearing the phrase, God is inside every one of us. We grow up hearing the phrase, that the Guru is Bhagavan. Such statements are handed to us at such an early stage, and that too in such an intrinsic way that, as I said, it is both a convenience and a seeming inconvenience. It is very convenient because it then later enables us to imbibe these qualities, to understand the import of these statements very easily. It is tough because for this to happen, we have to understand that we have been given this. So it is one thing to understand what these statements mean. It is one thing to realize that we have to understand what these statements mean. Right? So this is a convenience and a seeming inconvenience of Sanatana Dharma. Alongside such statements, we have also been given certain things that we may not always understand the full weight of. The Lalitā Sahasranama that we are going to discuss for the next 2 weeks is one such text. Some texts have become so commonplace in Sanatana Dharma, such an integral part of our Dharma, that sometimes we don't perhaps understand the full background of what that stotra entails. The Lalitā Sahasranama is one such example of that. Of course, its counterpart, the Vishnu Sahasranama, is also one such example of that. Even mantras, small mantras like Namah Shivaya, which is a mantra that we are very accustomed to. But whether we understand the full weight of these stotras or these mantras is, of course, an entirely different issue. So, the Lalitā Sahasranama can be described as nothing less than Brahma Vidya under the name of Shri Vidya. So, we have to understand what these two things are. The heart of Sanatana Dharma lies in the Upanishads, which are the philosophical parts of the Vedas, in which the doctrine of Advaita is taught, the philosophy of Advaita is taught. That is to say, that there is one conscious entity in this universe, that is what we call Brahman. It does not have name or form, it is pure, unadulterated consciousness. This Brahman, drawing upon its Shakti of Maya, drawing upon its capability of Maya, creates mental bonds, through that a Jagat takes upon various bodies and forms and carries out the functions of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. That is to say, the creation, sustenance and dissolution of the universe. In a nutshell, this is what Advaita tells us. And then it also makes the crowning statement, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, which tells us that the consciousness that we find in the Jiva and the consciousness that we find in Ishvara, who is responsible for the Srishti, Sthiti and Laya, are not two separate entities. It is one consciousness When it acts using Maya, that is termed as Ishvara. It is the same consciousness when defined by the agent of the body. When defined by the body human complex, that is called the Jiva. So, this in a nutshell is what Advaita is telling us. Then, because this Tattva is not so easily understood by a raw mind, the everyday mind, which is used to worldly transactions, which is not used to contemplating upon more subtle philosophies, because such a mind cannot immediately take up this philosophy, take it to heart, and bring it to a state of realization. There's one thing to understand it and one thing to actually experience it. Because it is very tough for the raw mind to do this. Our Shastras have very kindly given us, our Guru Parampara has very kindly given us certain exercises, certain rigors, certain processes by which we can train the mind to make it capable of understanding us. And that is exactly where we get the entire span of the Karma Marga. The entire portion of action that is enjoined upon us, that is indeed very important, and whose importance is by no means diminished by the finality of the Jnana Marga. This Karma Marga is by no means worthy of being ignored. This is very much necessary, and it is imperative that we follow it as our Shastras instruct. Because it is only through this that certain qualifications can be obtained, through which we can easily enter the Jnana Marga and make the most of the Jnana Marga. So the rigor of Karma Marga instills in us a rigor of the mind as well. There is a Shraddha that is obtained by doing certain actions faithfully. There is a presence of mind and a bearing of mind, an equality of mind that is obtained by unswerving performance of one's duty. All, and besides this, of course, the punya, the fruit that is innate in any good action that we will then obtain by doing such satkarmas. So all of this is meant to prepare the sadhaka such that the Jnana Marga then becomes very easy to enter. However, we still have not entered the topic of today. We have spoken about Jnana, that is enshrined in the texts. We have spoken about Karma, which prepares us for Jnana. The concept of Bhakti, which in a more rigid way is called Upasana, is the bridge between these two. Upasana refers to the worship of a Devata in a very rigorous and a very dedicated way. The word Upasana itself is Upasana. To sit in the vicinity of something is called Upasana. It is like even Bhagavan says in the Gita, when talking about the various ways that we can get knowledge, Bhagavan says, Acharya-upasana, serving the Guru, being close to the Guru and serving the Guru. So the word Upasana refers to being close to something. Being close to it means not just sitting next to it, but serving it diligently with the proper bhakti and shraddha. So the worship of Devatas is called Upasana because we are supposed to inculcate the feeling that the Devata is never out of reach. We may not be in front of a Vigraha, we may not be inside Devalaya, we may not be going to a Mandira, there may not be some photo close to us, but the feeling that the Devata is never removed from me, the Devata is within me, the Devata is within me as my Antaratma, the Devata is within me as the mantra that I have been given, the Devata is within me as my very thought. This feeling is supposed to be inculcated by Upasana. And it is this Upasana that spans the gap between Karma and Jnana. So just because we are in the Karma Marga does not mean that we have to be turned off from the Jnana Marga. The fact that just because we are not all taking up sannyasa and dedicating our entire lives to the contemplation of Brahman does not mean that the study of Vedanta or the tenets of Advaita are somehow distanced from us. That is why the Jagat Gurus are very kindly arranged, not only arranged but instructed that such Vedantic sessions must be undertook regularly, not just by the Vinta but by Bhaktas. So Bhaktas should also be coming regularly to listen to us. So it is to ensure that the Bhakta, the Sadhaka, is not distanced from Jnana while he performs Karma. That Upasana has been streamlined. It is what the Rishis would very well have told us that here is a mantra, here is a yantra, do repetition of the mantra, worship the yantra, and then go about your day. That could very well have been the way that worship of a devata would have been approached in Sanatana Dharma. However, that was not at all the intention of the rishis that gave us this sampradaya. The upasana of a devata is meant to be Brahma Vidya in disguise. So, whether you worship Devi, whether you worship Shiva, whether you worship Ganesha, whether you worship Mahavishnu, whether you worship Surya Bhagavan, the worship of all of these devatas is meant to be none other than worship of that Paramatma who is noble through all the Vedantas. And so Bhagavan says in Gita, Vedishta Sarvai Rahameva Vedyaha. I am the final purport of all the Vedas. So that Paramatma who is the purport of all the Vedas takes upon various forms. And Lalitha famous says, Sadhatanam Hitarthaya Brahmano Rupakalpana. Brahman, that Paramatma takes upon various forms such that it becomes easier for the sadhana to penetrate upon it. Bhagavan also says in Gita, Klesham Dilata Spesha Avyakta Sakta Chetasam. Meditating upon the Avyakta, that is to say the unmanifest Brahman, is certainly much harder than meditating upon Ishvara once he has taken upon a payment of all. So the rishis have ensured that the way we approach the worship of these devatas is by no means separate from the Vedanta that we later have to learn. And that is why these upasanas are called vidyas. So the terminology Upanishads is that any upasana that is given to us, any meditation of any devata that is given to Upanishads is given the name vidya. So actually the word Brahma Vidya in Upanishads refers to this. So of course the word Brahma Vidya refers to the knowledge of Brahma, but it also refers to the upasana of Brahma in various ways. Several of those are given in the Upanishads. For example, we have the Antaraditya Vidya, wherein we are told in the Upanishad, it is told that we must meditate upon an entity within the orb of the sun, who from the tips of his nails up to the ends of his 8 tips is completely gold. Apranathat sarva eva swarnaha. Up to the tips of his nail, he is entirely made of gold. We must meditate upon him within the orb of the sun. This is one such upasana that has been given in the Upanishads. In the same way, we have the Antaraksha wherein a Purusha of the same nature, a golden Purusha, up to the tips of his nails, is meant to be meditated upon within the orb of the eye. So, various such upasana of Omkara as Udhita, so many such upasanas have been given in the Upanishads. So, in all cases, the common thread under all of this is that whatever we are told to meditate upon, we are supposed to view it as Brahman. That is exactly, the Brahma Sutra also that says the same. And Bhagavad Pada says time and time again in the Sutra Bhashyas as well as in other Bhashyas, Yatha Salagrame Vishnu Buddhi. Just as we take a Salagrama, which is for all intents and purposes a stone that is made up of various minerals and entities, just as we not only believe but we feel to be Vishnu. We do not say, this is a stone, I am thinking this is Vishnu. That is by no means the way that you approach the worship of Sahasranāma. It is Vishnu. Now, does that mean that Vishnu has the same dimensions as the Sahasranāma? Is Vishnu limited to the adjunct of the Sahasranāma? That is by no means true. But we view it as there is a great concept of Mahavishnu. Now, that being that pervades this entire universe, that takes upon so many divine avatars. There is a great entity called Mahavishnu, who is also appearing as the Salagrama. Just as this is our mindset when we approach the worship of Salagrama, and this goes on everything. When we worship a Shivalinga, we are not saying that, okay, so Shiva is some 5 centimeters tall and 5 centimeters wide. That is not how we worship, that is not how we approach the worship of a Shivalinga. We say that there is a Sadashiva who stands beyond time, who burnt Narmada, who kicked Yama, who is meditated upon by so many rishis. There is that great entity called Sadashiva, who is also appearing in front of me as this Linga. In the same way, the subject matter of all the upasanas in Sanatana Dharma is no different. There is an Ishvara who is responsible for the Srishti Nayas of this universe, who is now being meditated upon me as Devi. There is an Ishvara who is responsible for all these functions, who is now meditated by me as Shiva, who is now meditated upon me as Narayana, who is now meditated upon, who is now being meditated upon by me as Ganesha, as Surya, as whatever form that the Shastras have given. It does not then mean that you can pick up whatever name and form that you want. It has to be a name that the Rishis have given us, such that the upasana of this is conducive to the progress of the sadhana. And even within these upasanas, we can see that the sampradayas of these upasanas do not hide the fact that these are supposed to be Brahmavidyas. Then it is not like they are telling us that this upasana of Vande Vada, but actually it is Brahmavidya. Now these upasana sampradayas are very clear. The upasana sampradaya of Ganesha is very clear that it is Ganesha who is the Ishvara, who is responsible for the Srishti Layas. The same attributes are given to each Devata depending on how you worship upon them. Which is why among the gamut of these Sahasranamas, we have four very predominant Sahasranamas that we see. One, of course, is the Lalitha Sahasranama, which we find in the Brahmanda Purana. One is the Ganesha Sahasranama, which we also find in the Puranas. Both of these have been commented upon by Bhaskararaya. Besides these, we have two more Sahasranamas, Vishnu Sahasranama and Shiva Sahasranama, both of which are found in the Mahabharata, a couple of adhyayas apart. They are both found. They are not even separated by parvas. They are found in the same parva of the Mahabharata. And the beauty is that Vishnu Sahasranama is taught by Bhishma in the presence of Krishna Paramatma. Shiva Sahasranama, just a few adhyayas later, is taught by Krishna Paramatma while all the rishis listen. So, it is very clear to us that all of these Sahasranamas are meant to teach us about the same Ishvara. We are just giving them different names in past. And it is also why we see that there is a massive overlap of names across these Sahasranamas. The name Shiva occurs in both the Vishnu Sahasranama and of course the Shiva Sahasranama. Shambhu, Sharva, Ishvara. We find this across both the Vishnu Sahasranama and the Shiva Sahasranama. In the same way, of course, in the Lalitha Sahasranama also we have Govinda Rupini, Vishnu Rupini, Vaishnavi, Narayani. So many names of Devi that show her identity with Vishnu are found. Of course, then we have Brahmani, he is the Shakti of Brahma. Then Saraswati, Shastamayi, that is also there. Sharada, if you are in the presence of Sharada Parameshwari. Sharada is also there. Where the mean, we can take it as she who is worshipped by Sharada. And then Bhaskararaya shows one more meaning. Sharada, who is Aradha, is Sharadarabha. Sharada Parameshwari, who herself is being worshipped by many devatas, is Sharadarabha. She is no different from Lalita Devi. Which is why, when Bhagavad did Pratishtha of Devi here 12 centuries ago, he did not put Sharadamba on top of a Saraswati Yantra. He put Sharadamba on top of a Shri Chakra, which, as we know, is the yantra of Lalita Devi. The Lalita Triprasundayi, each devata has a mantra, a sound, a solid form of that devata, as well as a yantra, a geometric representation of that devata. The mantra is not something used to praise the devata. The yantra is not used to worship the devata. The mantra is the devata and the yantra is the devata. When the devata appears in a corporeal form, just as we say that is a vigraha, when the devata takes upon a solid form, that is what we call the mantra. So when the Guru gives, that is why the mantropadesha is so glorified in Shastra. Because the Guru is not saying, here is a mantra through which you can now worship Devi. The Guru is saying, I am giving you the devata in a sound form, keep it with you in your mouth and in your heart at all times. So if the Acharya does Upadesha of the Shiva Panchakshari, the Acharya has not given us something by which we will worship Shiva. The Acharya has given us Shiva. This Shiva is meant to be kept in the heart. Until the very heartbeat of the Upasaka becomes the Shiva Panchakshari mantra, we are supposed to worship that Devata until that Devata becomes part and parcel of who we are. The same goes for if the Guru gives us the Mahavira mantra, the Vallabha mantra, if the Guru gives us Sri Vidya Panchadashi, if the Guru gives us Ashtakshari Narayana mantra, all of this, the process is the same. The Guru has given you the Devata, take care of the Devata as best that you can. Worship that Devata with Shraddha, do japa with Shraddha, and make sure that that Devata is being carried in your heart. Yet the Upa Asana of that Devata is being performed at all times. So we see this similarity carried out across all the Sahasranāmas that we find. Which is why we will see today that Bhaskararaya does not, as I said, Bhaskararaya is supremely clear about this. In fact, this is Ambayaha Brahmanaha in one place. Although the word Amba is Strilinga, it is in the feminine gender. Although the word Brahman is in the neuter gender, he uses both of them together. He says this Amba, this Lalitā that we are talking about is Brahman. And this Sahasranāma is meant to teach us that. How that has come out, we will see later. So, if we see, now we enter the subject material properly. The Lalitā Sahasranama is found in the Brahmanda Purana. Various Puranas glorify various Devatas. Because each sadhaka will desire to see Ishvara in a different way. Some will desire the form of Vishnu, some will desire the form of Shiva, some will desire the form of Ganapati. To assist all of these Upasakas, Vyasa Maharshi, to whom we owe the entirety of the lineage of Sanatana Dharma, has very nicely given us so many Puranas, so many stories, in which every single Devata has been glorified. You will not find a Devata, that is to say, of these 6 primary Devatas that we have in Sanatana Dharma. Aditya, Devi, Vishnu, Shiva, Ganesha and Skanda, which incidentally will be the topic of the Shatavadhani series in the evening. So these 6 Devatas, you will not find a Devata that is not glorified as Supreme Parabrahman in any Purana. That is to say, each of these Devatas in some Purana or the other have been clearly stated by Vyasa Maharshi to be the Supreme Paramatma. So if anyone does it, some people wonder, they say, why did Vyasa Maharshi write so many Puranas confusing so many people? Right? In some cases Vishnu is Supreme, in some cases Shiva is Supreme, in some cases Devi is Supreme. Why did he confuse us? Because of this sectarian conflict is continuing to this day. Right? So why did Vyasa Maharshi perform such a confusing action? The simple answer is, my simple response is, what more could Vyasa Maharshi have done? He is saying, X is talked about as Supreme in the Vedas, X is Vishnu, X is Devi, X is Shiva. I don't know how much more clear he could have been. Right? So, if there is one Brahman that is talked about in the Vedantas, and then you write a book saying Vishnu is Brahman, and then you later write one more book saying Shiva is Brahman, and then you write one more book saying Devi is Brahman, I actually don't know how much more clear you can be. And then later on, in these very same texts, you say Vishnu is Brahman, and then you say Vishnu is not different from Shiva, and then you say Shiva is Brahman, and then you say Shiva is not different from Vishnu, and then you say Devi is Brahman, and then you say that Devi appears as Vishnu, Brahma and Shiva. I really don't know how much more clear Vyasa Maharshi could have been. So, Vyasa Maharshi by no means confused anyone through the Puranas. It is simply that if you choose to look at the Puranas in tunnel vision, you will end up confusing yourself. So, it is not Vyasa Maharshi who has confused anyone, but those people have confused themselves if they are confused about the purport of these Puranas. So, as we see, there are some Puranas in which Vishnu, Mahavishnu is shown as Paramatma. That is Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Varaha Purana. All these Puranas show Mahavishnu as the ultimate Brahman. And the Upasanas of Vishnu also echoes that. There are some Puranas, the Shiva Purana, Linga Purana, Purma Purana, Vayu Purana, which talk about Shiva as the Paramatma. The Upasana Sampradaya of Shiva echoes that. There are many Puranas, Devi Bhagavata, this Brahmanda Purana, parts of the Brahmavata Purana. There are so many parts of these Puranas where Devi is glorified. The Upasana Sampradaya of Devi echoes this. So, in this way, the Skanda Purana contains things about all Devatas. You will permit a Shiva Purana, but you will find Upasana of all Devatas in that. The same goes for Agni Purana. It seems to be a Vaishnava Purana on face value, but there also you will find that the way to do Lingarjana is very elaborately described in that. So all the Puranas, in some way or the other, while showing us one Devata is the Paramatma, also keep reminding us that it is that Devata that appears as always. And the way that each Purana does it is, if it is talking about Vishnu, it will say that Vishnu is Paramatma, and then say that all the names and formulas that belong to Vishnu, whether it is Shiva, Devi or Brahma, they are all actually Vishnu. Then come to the Shiva Puranas, where the same is repeated, just switch Shiva and Vishnu. Wherein Shiva is Paramatma, it is from Shiva that Narayana and Brahma came. Shiva appears as Trimurtis, and all the names and formulas that belong to Shiva. And the same goes for Devi, Ganesha, so on and so forth. I think at some point I will even print it, but I keep making these same statements. So that is the way that the Puranas have so beautifully been structured such that it enables diversity of practice while ensuring harmony. That is the genius of the Vyasa-Maharishi. Such that these various Upasana Sampradayas, while keeping them distinct, right? The people who worship Vishnu are not mandated to worship Shiva. The people who worship Shiva are not mandated to worship Vishnu. The people who worship Devi are not mandated to worship any other form of Devi, any other form of Bhagavan by any means. All it is saying is that pick one, make that Paramatma, through that understand Paramatma, and then understand that it is that Paramatma that forget about other devatas, is every atom of this jagat, and at the end of the day is your own Atma itself. So the Upasana Sampradaya of every devata status has to each and every Purana, and that is what we find brought out in the Brahmana Purana in the Lalitā Sahasranama as well. So now to enter the next topic. This Brahmana Purana, as I said, is a text that describes Devi as Lalitā Tripura. So as I said, when we worship each devata as Paramatma, the Upasana Sampradayas have to ensure that we do in fact believe that devata is Paramatma. For example, if we take that Shiva is Paramatma, there are many Puranas where Shiva is born, Rudra is born from Brahma's forehead, or Rudra is born from Vishnu's Sankalpa. There is that one Upanishad is also there, Eko Hai Narayana Asit, Na Brahma Yeshanaha. There was only Narayana in the beginning. There was not Brahma, there was not Shiva. So many statements are there, which are contrary to this, right? It's like Shiva was not there. Shiva was not there in the beginning of the universe, so it does not seem like Shiva would be Brahman. So then, what should someone who is doing Upasana of Shiva as Brahman do? The same goes for Narayana. There is one more Upanishad that says, Karya Rupam Karya is Vishnu, the Karana is Shiva. Shiva is the cause, Vishnu is the effect. There are Upanishad statements that say this as well. So then, someone who is worshipping Vishnu as Brahman, what should he do? So, what every single Upasana Sampradaya, the same goes for Devi also, that there is only Purusha from whom everything came. So, every single Upasana Sampradaya has the same answer to this problem. Wherein Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are there. Their Shakti is also there. But there is a Narayana from whom Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva emanated. This is the Vaishnava responsibility. The Shaiva responsibility is a duplicate. There is a Sadashiva from whom Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva came. You can duplicate this very much to get the Shakta response. There is a Parashakti from whom the Trimurtis and their respective Shaktis emanated. The reason I am bringing this up now is there is a reason why we call this as Lalitā Sahasranama, and Bhaskaraya also brings this later. For example, when we refer to Mahavishnu as Narayana, there is no one above Narayana. Narayana will never be one. Narayana is the final word. He is the ultimate cause and the ultimate end of this universe. There is no being from whom Narayana will be born. You will see Vishnu being born. You will never see Narayana being born. The word Narayana is very rarely, if at all, used to refer to a being that is created. The word Narayana across our Puranas and Shastras will only be used to refer to the Ishvara who is supreme. Just as the word Sadashiva, the word Shiva or Dutta we will see in many places to refer to the being who is in charge of Maya. But the word Sadashiva, you will never find used to mean anything less than a supreme Ishvara. In the same way, when it comes to Devi, Parvati, Girija, Gauri, these terms you will see used to refer to the Shakti of Shiva, that is to say the Shakti who is the wife of the Lalitha. But you will never say Lalitā Tripura Sundari be used to mean anything other than the primordial cause of the universe. That is why in this Brahmana Purana, Lalitā Devi is talked about so much. It is just as we call it as the Narayana mantra, right? We don't call it the Vishnu mantra, just because the terminology of Narayana has a particular weight to it. The Veda also says, then Sadashiva, the word Sadashiva also has a particular weight to it. In the same way, in Devi Upasana, the word Lalitā or the word Tripura Sundari has a particular weight to it. The word Lalitā or Tripura Sundari is used to mean only the Brahman that takes upon a particular form. It is not used to mean any Shakti that is born from any other entity. It is not used to mean any other limited entity. The Paramatma who is, as I said, talked about in the Vedas as the five Bhagavad of the Vedas, is Lalitā Tripura Sundari. It is for that reason that in this, the Lalitā Sahasranama is talked about, not Gauri Sahasranama or Girija Sahasranama. So this comes in a conversation between Agastya Maharshi and Hayagreeva. Which is why you get the Hayagreeva Agastya, we get this. So Hayagreeva has just told Agastya Maharshi the story of Lalitā Devi, which we call Lalitha. So this also we talk about, because Lalitha itself occurs in a smaller form in the Lalitā Sahasranama. So after having taught this Lalitha having told the story of Lalitā Devi, within which the Upasana of Lalitā is talked about, the worship of the Sri Chakra is talked about, various places of where Lady values, for example, Kanchi, the Kshetra of Kanchi is described in great detail. So all of these details of Lalitā Devi have been described, as well as her main Paricharikas. So on both sides of Lalitā Devi, not clear, but you will see two devatas always flanking her. They are called Manthini and Dandini. Manthini is also known as Rajashyamala, and Dandini is also known as Varahi or Vattadi. These are names that we see in the Shastra. So the Sahasranamas of these devatas also have been told. But then Agastya Maharshi gets the doubt. Why have you told me the Sahasranamas of the Parivar devatas, but not told me the Sahasranama of that Devi? Now, why is Agastya Maharshi so concerned with the Sahasranama? These Sahasranamas are not just a list of 1,000 names, but they have particular mantric properties. So when you do Upasana of any Devata, there is something called the Panchandras. There are 5 aspects of the Devata that bolster the Upasana of any Devata. One is the Moola Mantra, one is the Kavacha, one is the Hridaya, one is the Bija. Then there is one more which is the Bijaksha. So there are 5 in total. So the Sahasra, the Bija, Kavacha, Hridaya, Moola Mantra and Sahasranama. These 5 will be found for any Devata. For example, if we take Mahavishnu, there is a Vishnu Bijakshara, there will be a Moola Vishnu Mantra which is Ashtakshari, there will be a Narayana Hridaya, that is a Lakshmi Narayana Hridaya that usually do the Parayana of. Then there will be a Vishnu Sahasranama, then there will be a Narayana Kavacha, the Narayana Kavacha we find in Bhagavata. The same goes to every single Devata. So this Sahasranama is not just a stotra, but it is a stotra that has great potency. It is a very potent stotra. So Agastya Maharshi is inherently desiring to know about this. His desires furthermore bolstered by the fact that the Sahasranamas of other devatas have been told, but not of Lalitā Devi. And the way that Agastya Maharshi asks is, we see that he is a proper Shishya. Master also thinks that in the reaction. He cannot take every word in the reaction simply because he has concept of time. But the point is that Agastya Maharshi approaches Hayagreeva with the utmost vinaya. So he asks, you have told me Ashwan Mahabuddhe Sarvashastra Visharada Kathitam Lalitā Devyash Charitam Paramatmam. You have told me the story of Lalitā Devi. The meaning of Lalitā also is told. We will talk about that as well. Purvam Pravadbhava Mamahu. You have told me how she came into existence. Tataf Pattabhisheshanam. How she was coronated as the empress of all the Devatas. Bhandasura Vadhashreva. The way that she destroyed Bhandasura. You have told me all of it. Varnidam Shripuram. You have described her capital city and all of that. Chakravarashta Vidyaya. Srideviyaha Deshivadvamo Rahasya Khande Tadapnyam Parasparam Udidinam. You have taught me how the Sri Chakra, the mantra of Devi, Devi herself, the Guru and the Atma. You have shown me how these 5 are not separate from each other. You have shown me how these 5 are the same entity. You have told me all of this. Natu Mandine Dandine Devyof Puramne Nama Sahasrati. Mandine and Dandine of Varahi and Shyamala. You have told me the Sahasranamas of these 2. But Natashri Lalita Devya of Nama Sahasrati. You have not taught me the Sahasranama of Lalita Devi. Then he asks, Tatra me samshayo janaha Hayagreeva Dayamide. He is referring to the Guru Hayagreeva as Dayamide. You are necessarily. So I have got one doubt. Kimva Tvaya Vismritam Tas Jnatva Va Samapekshitam. Have you forgotten to tell me? Or are you withholding this information on purpose? Forgotten because he is just desiring the knowledge, have you forgotten? And then this is just told just because he can say that. The second part is, have you withheld this because of a reason? My guess is that reason may be, Mamava yogyata nasti shlokum nama sahasrakam. Am I not fit to listen to this? So in the beginning itself, we have got one thing that the first thing that you need to learn anything is you have to be yogya to learn it. You have to be deserving of that knowledge. Right? So, kimartham bhavada noktam tatrame kararam vala. So it is the humility of Agastya Maharshi that he is not saying, you didn't tell me this, now tell me this. Agastya Maharshi is asking, you did not tell me this. Please tell me why you did not tell me this. That is the beauty of the Shishya. Why did you not tell me? If I am not deserving of it, I will not ask. If you have forgotten about it, as the duty of Shishya, I should ask. Right? In fact, once there was something that I was asking Sahasranāma. So I asked once, Guru Lalitha said, I will tell you later. I asked one more time, 2 days later, Guru Lalitha said, I will tell you later. I asked once more, Guru Lalitha said, I will tell you later. I then thought, Guru Lalitha has so many things to do. He is running the entire Pitha. Guru Lalitha is running the entire Pitha. I am not the worthy thing in front of Guru. I was like, okay, maybe I should not trouble Guru Lalitha so many times by continuously asking. So then I went and said, I am sorry if I have been asking this too much. I know that there are many things, forgive me. Please tell me when I should ask it. I should not get asked. And then it is the mercy of the Guru that we see that Guru responded, there is no problem at all. You keep asking. We see this in the Upanishad circle. The Shishya needs to keep asking. The Guru will just tell when the time is right. But it is the duty of the Shishya to keep asking until the Guru tells. So no problem, you continue asking. So the mercy of the Guru is like that. Even if it is an inconvenience to them, out of the desire that the Shishya should get it, actually out of mercy only they do not tell sometimes. Because there is a proper opportune time. I have seen this many times. There will be a proper time wherein we will only feel that, thank goodness this was not taught before. Because when it has been taught now, the force of the teaching, the weight of the teaching will be felt. The Guru will know that, the Shishya will know. So, it is the job of the Guru to withhold certain information until the Shishya is ready for it. It is also the job of the Shishya to keep asking until he becomes worthy at some point. So the point of this is, tell me if I am not worthy. If I am not worthy, I will stop asking. And if I am not worthy, tell me why I am not worthy, and I will do my best to make up for that shortcoming such that I become worthy. Because if the Shishya says, oh, I am not ready, okay, the Guru only will tell me. That is also not the quality of the Shishya. The Shishya should strive to be the best Shishya that he can. The Shishya should seek to make himself worthy of the best teaching that the Guru can give. So, with this in mind, keeping this jignasa, this desire to know in mind, and this duty of the Shishya in mind, to ask and to make himself worthy of knowledge. Agastya Maharshi asks, why did you not tell me, and not tell me that which you have not told me? So then, Hayagreeva starts speaking. Iti prushto Hayagreevo munina kumbhajanmana prarishto vachanamabha tapasam kumbhasambhavam. So, here Hayagreeva is prarishta. Hayagreeva is so happy. We get the same thing in Ramayana. Prarishto vakyam, almost the same statement. Narada was so happy that Valmiki Maharshi asked this for 2 reasons. One, the opportunity to teach the Shishya is something that every single Guru relishes. There is nothing that the Guru likes more than teach. You will see this in every single place across the Shastra. If you ask what a Guru likes, option A, Brahma Dhyana, option B, teaching. These are the only 2 things that a Guru will like. So the second that a student asks a good question, the teacher will say, I am so happy I got a chance to teach you. The second reason why the teacher will be happy is, especially in the case of, for example, when Narada is asked about Rama, or when Hayagreeva is asked about Lalitha, is that the subject matter that has been asked about is not different from what they like to do in general. Hayagreeva, when we see, this is also what he said, Hayagreeva in Bhagavata, Mahabharata is Mahavishnu Paramatma known above him. In the Sampradaya of Lalitha Devi, in the Sampradaya of Devi Upasana, Hayagreeva is a Guru. He is the greatest Guru who has understood Devi properly, who has worshipped her. That story also will come. So, Hayagreeva is so happy that the Paramatma whom he has been worshipping until now has been asked about. So now he does not have to stop thinking about Paramatma and Atma to teach. He can teach while thinking of Paramatma. The same thing applied in Ramayana to Narada Maharshi. The same Narayana that he is meditating upon day in and day out without leaving even a second is the subject matter of Valmiki Maharshi's question. So he becomes so happy, A, that the Shishya has asked such a good question, and B, that the subject matter of the question is the subject that he holds most dear to. In the same way, Hayagreeva also here is very happy. And here Bhaskara takes an entire paragraph to talk about why Hayagreeva was happy. The commentary of Lalitha Sahasranama will also be when I just tell you, where it is pertinent, I will discuss that. So here, Hayagreeva is happy because Agastya Maharshi has finally asked. That is why he is happy. Because Hayagreeva also wants to teach this. It is not like Hayagreeva is withholding information on purpose. But there is a Shastra, there is a rule in Shastra that Nāprishta kaschachit brūyāt iti Vedāpa Shastra. It is the sampradaya of the Vedas that you should not teach unless you have been asked for it. This is the rule. Iti Vedāpa Shastra. This is found in the Mahabharata in Vidura. Actually, Vidura himself tells this. Unfortunately, to Dhritarashtra, so we did not get anything from it, but there have been so many people since then who learned from it. So we can just assume that Vidura is meant further. So Vidura tells this. So this is one thing. You should not give anyone any teaching unless they ask for it. We say, okay, this seems fine. Second half of the shloka, aprishtas tasya tu brūyāt yasya nechet parābhāha. You should teach someone something without even being asked if you do not wish them to obtain any misfortune. If you do not want them to obtain any calamity, you should teach them without asking. But without being asked, you should not teach anything. This is why Goswami is confused. Because forget about it in different places. In the same shloka it says, first half is saying one thing, second half is saying something else. So here very beautifully Bhaskara shows that these two statements are meant for different types of students. The first statement is meant for two scenarios. Either someone does not have Shraddha, or they have Shraddha and they are capable of asking questions. In these two scenarios, you should not teach without being asked. So, the ability to ask questions is not something that every student has. The ability to ask the right question at the right time only comes when the student has a particular sharpness, when the student has a particular understanding of how to learn. A student that does not know how to learn, does not know which question to ask when. So this is one scenario. Obviously, the second scenario is someone who does not have Shraddha on the subject material. He does not have a reverence for the subject material. To someone who does not have that reverence, there is no need to teach him without being asked. The same way, there is someone who can ask. If he can ask the question, if the student is capable of asking questions, and yet he does not ask, probably he is still confused about something earlier, or perhaps he is not seeking to know this just yet, or maybe he is desire to know something lies somewhere else. So there is no need to trust information on him. So this first line, that is to say, do not teach without being asked, refers to two scenarios. One scenario wherein the seeker does not have Shraddha. The second scenario wherein the seeker has Shraddha, but he has Shraddha and is capable of asking the right question, but has not asked it yet. The second line is meant solely for those seekers who have Shraddha but do not know how to ask questions. The Guru has to take this into mind, saying that he is a Shishya, he is dedicated, but perhaps he is not understanding what to ask next such that there will be continuity material. So, let me take it upon myself to teach him. So, such teachings also exist in Shastra. So, the second half is meant for such a scenario. So, here Hayagreeva knows that Agastya Maharshi has the utmost Shraddha, and he also knows that Agastya Maharshi is a Maharshi, he is supremely intelligent. Why has he not asked it yet? I want to tell you this, why has he not asked yet? So, now that he has asked, Hayagreeva is like, finally, he has asked. Now I can start telling whatever I want to tell. So that is he is so happy. And then he says, Loka Udrapate, Agastya, Savadhana Manashruno, Nānam Sahasram Yamnoktam, Karanam Tadvadamide, Rahasyagri Matvaham Voktavaste, Nashamyata. So he says, I will now tell you why I did not tell you this Sahasranama. It is because it is a Rahasya. Now, if it is a Rahasya, why are we telling it in a night for 7 days? Rahasya means the mantra of Devi is Rahasya. The Panchadashi mantra of Devi and the secrets or the intricacies of Upasana of the Shri Chakra, which form the subject material of the Sahasranama are Rahasya. Those I have not told because those are known through this. So this I have kept secret. These Rahasyas have to be asked and only then must be given. It is a rule that mantra Upadesha should not be given unless the Shishya asks. This is how it is in Shastra. The Shishya has to ask. The Guru has to decide whether he is proper or not. The Guru has to test him for a year. It is what in Shastra. And only then must the mantra Upadesha be given. Of course, there are exceptions wherein the Shishya needs that mantra Upadesha. The Guru already knows that he is deserving and then sometimes will give it. The general rule is that the Shishya has to ask, the Guru has to test and then give. So, it is because this stotra is of that nature, it is a mantra stotra, that I have waited until you ask. And one more nice aspect is in the Vyakhyan here. The first Sambodhana, the first vocative that Hayagreeva calls on to Agastya Maharshi is Lopa Mudra Mate. You have qualification that perhaps you don't know about. You are the husband of Lopa Mudra, so you have a particular qualification. Because there is, you get in this one, Lopa Mudra China, there are some Upasakas of Devi who are very special. Durvasa Maharshi, Agastya Maharshi, Hayagreeva Maharshi, Manmatha, Hayagreeva, Manmatha, Brahma, these are all Prarthana of the Shri Vidya Sampradaya. These are all people who are aimed as the foremost Upasakas of Shri Vidya. So amongst those is Lopa Mudra. So because you have the fortune of being married to one of the greatest Upasakas of Devi, you have a particular qualification to listen to this. The second thing is you are Agastya. The name Agastya is what we call it Shastra as the Veeranam. It is not a name that is given at birth, it is a name that is earned. For example, Agastya itself we can take Agam Styayati, it is Agastya. Aga is a mountain. Styayati means to arrest it, to suppress it. So because when the Vidya Parvata was growing unchecked and it posed a threat to the beings around it, it was Agastya Maharshi who was sent to arrest its movement. So because this Tapashakti, he was so venerated that he was able to suppress even that Vidya Parvata, he is called Agastya, such that no one knows what he was actually given, the name that he was given at birth. Some people just don't know those names. Agastya Maharshi is one such person that the name Agastya speaks to his Tapashakti. And besides that, he is Lopa Mudra Bhati. So, he has been told. In fact, the Vasara writes one more thing. What about Hayagreeva? What is his backstory? So, the name Hayagreeva itself is indicative of the grace that Hayagreeva has obtained from Lalitha Devi. So, now we need to separate in our minds that when we are talking about Hayagreeva here, this is not Hayagreeva who is the Jnana Pradapta Swarupa of Narayana who is Paramatma. Because clearly these two are not compatible. So the story I am now about to tell, Vishnu Bhaktas, please don't get offended. This is not your Vishnu who is Paramatma. This is Hayagreeva who is the almost Upasana of Lalitha Devi who is Paramatma. Now you have to understand it in that sense. This name Hayagreeva is a testament to the Anugraha that Hayagreeva has gotten from Devi. So the story is in Devi Bhagavata that Vishnu fought with Naraitava for many Divya Samvatsaras. At some point, they took a break and Vishnu rested his head on his bow. So, bows are strung. So, there is a tension to the bow. They have to draw weight and all of that. So, he rested his head on the bow and he started sleeping for many years. He did not wake up. He kept sleeping because he was fatigued. Then, to wake him up, Brahma, Ruja, all these devatas, they sent Indra as a bumblebee, as an ant. This Indra chewed off the bowstring. So the tension got released. The bow snapped up and Vishnu's head went off. Head is separated from the body. They were unable to even trace the head. So then they are like, we wanted to wake him up, not do this. So what do we do now? So then they prayed to Lalitha Devi. Lalitha Devi then says, you give him, there is a Ashtadeva, there is a horse head, you give it to him. So then the horse head is placed on the body, with which he then kills the Rakshasa like Hayagreeva, and then After that, from Devi, he receives the Brahmajnana, including the intricacies of Devi Upasana, and thus Hayagreeva becomes a Brahmajnani and the foremost Upasaka of Lalita Devi. So clearly, getting tired, sleeping, head being removed, studying from someone else are not qualities of Paramatma. So the Hayagreeva whom we are talking about here is not being talked about as Paramatma. The Hayagreeva whom we see in the Mahabharata, who drives away Madhukaitava, who has given rise to Brahma, who by the very sound of his name, his horse's sound, from that itself he creates the Vedas. That is Hayagreeva's Paramatma. So we need to separate these two ways and look at it. But here, the name Hayagreeva itself is a proof of the fact that he is an Upasaka of Devi and he has gotten so much Anugraha from Devi. So, because he has learned about Brahmavidya from Devi herself, there is no better teacher of this Brahmavidya of Lalita Devi's Upasana than Hayagreeva. So, the name Hayagreeva is a testament to that. So, that is why Hayagreeva is teaching, Agastya Maharshi is learning. So, then Hayagreeva says, this Lalitā Sahasranama was actually told by some devatas in Lalita Devi's Sabha. So, once upon a time, these devatas called the Vashinyavi Vagdevatas. So, Vashini, Kaulini, Jaini, Vimala, Mohini, there are some Vagdevatas who were created by Lalita Devi to preside over speech. So, one day Lalita Devi called them and said, you need to create one Sahasranama. You have to create it by me. You need to create one Sahasranama. No, I am ordering you. This Sahasranama should be on my name. Mannāvankiham. It should be upon my name and it should be such that anyone who repeats it, anyone who does smarana of it, should be able to understand everything that there is to know about me. So, you need to create one Sahasranama now. That is the summation of my tattva. Go ahead and do it. So then, they went ahead, they did such a Sahasranama. And here, Devi writes, Mannam nam chihtikam. Yena bhaktas tutayame sadyaf pritah parab. Yena bhaktas tutayame sadyaf pritah parab. You create that slotra wherein Mama Swotra Vidhanaya Tasmad Ajñāpayāmi Vaha. I now order you to do my stotra. Kurudhra Ankitam Stotram Mannāma Sahasranama. Who has performed a stotra that has my 1,000 names? Why did Devi say my 1,000 names? Here Bhaskaraya very nicely writes that Mama Namam Jihmitam. Why did Devi say my? She didn't say the Devi names or general names. Why did Devi say my? Ankanam now, Saravashloke Nama Pakshepaha. Ankanam means it is sealed with a mudra almost. So that is why in the end of this Lalita Sahasranama, Shri Shiva Shivashakti Kirupini Lalitā. This Lalitā is a stamp. It is saying all the names that we have talked about until now belong to Lalita Devi. It is a seal. So that seal is what? Mannāma Ankitam. It has to be sealed with my name. It is like a stamp of approval. And then one more thing is there that one more thing is that my name. What is my name? My name is Lalita. As I said earlier, the name Lalita is not used anywhere else. The name Lalita is only used to denote Devi as Brahma. So actually we should say it in the reverse to make it clear. Just as Vishnu is denoted by Narayana when we are giving Brahman as Vishnu. Just as Brahman is denoted as Sadashiva when we are giving Brahman as Shiva. In the same way, Brahman is denoted as Lalita when we give Devi as Brahman. So to make this clear that it is my name. Do not use any other name that is shaped by other devatas. For example, Bhavani, that is also my name. Rudrani is also my name. Do not use any of these names that are shaped by Shaktis on the Trimurti level. Make sure that it is a name that is unique to me as Brahman. That is why Devi said, Mannāma Ankitam. Make sure that it has the name that clarifies that this is Devi as Brahman. So that is why that thing has been, that specificity has been claimed by Devi that this has to be a stotra that describes me as Brahman. So then, the next day, she tells the devatas this, these Vagdevatas this. The next day, she arranges a sabha. It is decided there that crores of Brahmas with crores of Saraswatis, crores of Vishnus with crores of Lakshmis, crores of Shivas with crores of Gauris have come to in that Sabha. So, just as in any Sabha there will be a king and all the subjects will come. Devi is sitting there as Srimad Simhasaneshwari, as the queen, and all the Brahmandas that she rules. The populace of all of those Brahmandas are his devotees. Each Brahmanda has its own Brahma that creates it. Each Brahmanda has its own Vishnu that protects it. Each Brahmanda has its own Shiva that dissolves it. All of those devotees of each Brahmanda are Devi's subjects. So when Devi is sitting there as the queen of the entire cosmos, all her subjects have come to pay tribute to her. So when they come in such a sabha, then these Vashinyadi Vagdevatas have started doing this Lalitā Sahasranama. So this is how that Lalitā Sahasranama came into being. So basically this stotra is commissioned by Devi and approved by Devi as well. So Devi told them to create it, they have created it, and she has approved it as well. So then, after telling all of this, then Sahasranaya starts a vichara of his own. So now he takes a break actually. So now in the Purana the way it is, he created, she told the Vagdevatas to do the Sahasranama, they did the Sahasranama, and then the Sahasranama starts. But here Sahasranaya takes a break. Just as, exactly as Shankaracharya, Bhagavad takes a break in the Sahasranama. Same to same. The approach to our rishis is the same. Bhagavad starts same way. Shukva dharma vasheshena pavanani shukva dharma vasheshena pavanani sarvasha yudhishthirashkan matamat bhagarevanti bhandana limayam devatam loke. Same there too. Vishnu Sahasranama is presented how what is Yudhishthira straight up asks Bhishma. What are the 1,000 names of that one Paramatma by whom this entire Jagat is pervaded? What is the name? What are the 1,000 names of that one Paramatma? Thinking of which someone will get straight moksha. Just as Devi here said, make a Sahasranama that makes it clear that Brahman is being described. Same question there. Where Yudhishthira says, what are the names that make it clear that this Brahman is this Paramatma, and those names by which a sadhaka can pay tribute to that Ishvara as Brahman. Yes, the question is the same. That is why the answer is also the same. The Lalitā Sahasranama, the Shiva Sahasranama, and the Vishnu Sahasranama are all the same Sahasranama. It is the same Sahasranama presented three ways. So the question is the same, the answer is also the same. In both cases, it is told by a Bhakta in Bhagavan's presence. There, Bhishma told it in front of Krishna Paramatma. The Sahasranama that he is talking about belongs to that Krishna who is standing right there. In the same way here too, these Vagdevatas are telling the Sahasranama in the very presence of Lalita Devi, whose Sahasranama they are telling. So, the way that the Sahasranama has come about is the same. The question is the same. Agastya's question, Dharmarana's question, same. Then Hayagreeva's answer, and then also the Vagdevatas telling, this answer is the same as Bhishma's answer there. The subject material is also the same. Brahma Tattva. Presented in the covering of Vishnu Upasana here, presented in the covering of Devi Upasana here. Which is why there in the Vishnu Sahasranama Bhashya, Bhagavad takes a break here. After all the first statements come, right, after Bhishma's response, before Vishnu, Bhagavad takes a break and he says, let us discuss who this Vishnu is. He said, and then Bhagavad quotes almost some 7-8 Puranas, including Mahabharata and Ramayana, saying that Paramatma who takes the form of Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva is the Paramatma that is being discussed in this Sahasranama. Makes it very clear. The Paramatma who is the Vibhuti of the Gita said that Vishninam Vasudevasmi, Adityanam Vishnu, Rudranam Chandrashtasmi, Senaninam Aham Skandaha. The Paramatma who declared that I permeate every atom of this Jagat, that Paramatma is the subject material of this Sahasranama. Bhagavad takes a good 7-8 pages to pause after the question and answers are done before he starts the Sahasranama to make it clear that the subject material is Paramatma, Brahman. In the same way, after the question and answers here are done, before Srimad Vivahanadmi starts, Bhaskaraya also takes a break to make it very clear that what has been asked and what is being answered is nothing less than Brahma Tattva. So let us look at some vicharas that I want very salient. The first question that Bhaskarala asks is a question that although Advaitis have been answering it for several millennia, although we have been answering this for several millennia, it is unfortunately a question that Advaitis keep asking for millennia. Which is that if Brahman is without name and form, how can you praise him with 1,000 names? This question they have been asking since the beginning of time. We are also been answering them. Same answer. They have been patiently asking the same question. We have also been patiently, ever so patiently been giving the same answer. So the same answer is also given. It is just that every time an Acharya Purusha gives the answer, it is even more beautiful every time. So we might as well look at the answer again. So he asks, Nano, Nirgunaya Brahmani, Dharma Vesha Rahitya, Guna Kriya Jati Rudhinam Shabda Pravritti Nimindanam Asambhava. So the point is, this is the Shastric Paribhasha, I might as well explain it. There are some qualities that you have to have in order for a word to be used. Either a name, a form, an action, or a class should be there. So this is there in all Shastras. Tattva Shastra talks about this, Mimamsa talks about this in terms of how to use a word. When you use a word, especially a noun, there is always some attribute due to which we can use that word. So Narayana Bhattatari, the great, we only know him as the creator of Narayana, but he was a Shastra Pandita par excellence. He wrote text in almost every Shastra. He wrote the first half of one text in Mimamsa called Manamayaya, and describing the same thing. He says, because he is a Krishna Bhakta, we can see his Krishna Bhakti even in the Shastric text. To show that Vyavahara, that is the use of words predicated upon form, quality, name, action, or jati, which is class. That is to say, some common quality. So that Manushyatva, Pashatva, this is what we call jati. And then Sangya, that is to say, a designation. To show this, he so beautifully says, Shyamuyam, Gayatyam, Venumayam, Gopalayam, Govindoyam, he says. So he just talks about Krishna while illustrating the Shastric concept. This is Shyamuyam, he is dark in color. So such a phrase Shyama is predicated upon the quality that a dark color is present. This is a guna. Then Venumayam, this is a Vishesha. That is to say, he is qualified by a flute. The flute qualifies him. It is an extra appendage through which we know him. Venumayam, Gayatyam, he is singing. He is doing a kacheri on Yamuna Tira. So this is an action, kriya. So sometimes we use words based on kriyas. So Gayatyam, then Gopaloyam, he is a Gopala, he is a cowherd. This is the jati, Gopalatva. He is an attribute found in a particular class. Then Govindoyam, Govinda is a name given to him. That is, Paramatma is always Govinda, but specifically in Krishna Avtara, that Govinda Bhattabhisheka is there. After the Govardhana Leela, Indra comes and gives him the title Govardhana. So that Govinda Bhattabhisheka is a very great part of Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam. So that Govinda is a name that is given. So forget about its etymology. It is a samnya. It is a designation given to him. So Govindoyam. So in this way, if you wish to refer to an entity, it needs to either have a form, a quality, some qualifying attribute like a flute or something, or it has to have some action in it, or it has to have a particular name. You Advaitis say that Brahman does not have a name, it does not have a form, it does not do any actions, it does not have any qualities, it does not have any attributes. So forget about 1,000 names. How can you give it in one name? This is a common question that has been asked. But see how nicely the question has been asked. It has been presented as a valid question. So a valid answer is also being given. There he says, Ayam Bhavara. Here we need to answer what it is actually here. Brahma Dvividham. This is ditto almost copy and pasted from Ramsutra Bhashya. Bhagavad says, Kim Ve Brahmani? But Param Aparancha. Are there two Brahmans? Yes, certainly. There is a Parabrahman and a Parabrahman. That is exactly what Bhaskara is saying here. Brahma Dvividham. Sakalam Vishkanam. Let us use different terminology. But Brahman is approached in two ways. One is as Saguna, one is as Nirguna. Then he says, then, as the case for anything, we have to show that the Upanishad says yes to this. So, one Upanishad is brought up. Dve Brahmani Yedite, Param Chaparam Chedi, is there Shruti. So, Shruti is itself saying that you have to know Parabrahma and Aparbrahma. This is very to copy and paste from Veda. So, there also, the Parabrahma is the Satchidananda Kevala Nirguna Niragara Brahma. The Aparbrahma is the Saguna Brahma. Then it is not brought up here, but there the question is asked by Bhagavad that then does this not contradict Advaita? If you are saying that there is a Brahman with qualities and a Brahman without qualities, you have two objects, two Brahmans are there. So there Bhagavad says, as usual, you have completely misunderstood what I have said. What I am saying is, the names and qualities are imposed, they are not innate. So a Brahman can exist with the name and form as well as without. When we say something is of this nature, the nature is something that is innate. So when we say that Brahman does not have name and form, we mean that Brahman does not have an innate name and form. It does not mean that it cannot take upon a name and form, and it certainly does not mean that a name and form cannot be imposed on it. And what is more, the names and forms that it takes upon are created out of Maya, which means that they do not exist in an absolute sense anyway. So what we actually mean here is, there is only one Nirguna Brahman which we meditate upon as Saguna. There is a difference between Brahman actually being Saguna and being meditated upon as Saguna. So that is the distinction that the Advaiti makes, understands and sees very clearly in the Upanishads. So then, having told that, he then says that the Sakalam Aparam Tad Vividam Jagan Niyamadam Jagan Atmakam Chayati. This is a beautiful description that Bhagavad does not verbatim say in Sutra Bhatya, but as Bhaskaraya makes. So now we have split Brahman's Upasana into two forms. So there is one Nirguna Brahman and one Saguna Brahman. The Saguna Brahman is what we call Ishvara, who is responsible for the 63 lines. Now, this Ishvara also can be approached in two ways. This is a nice distinction that Bhaskaraya is bringing up. So, this Ishvara can be approached in two ways, as the Jagat Niyamaka and as Jagat Atma. As the person who controls the universe and as the person who appears in the universe. Ishvara also, just as Brahman, we have approached in two ways. Nirguna, Saguna. The Saguna Brahman is what we call Ishvara. This Saguna Brahman can now be approached in two ways. As the person who keeps the world in check, who rules it, as well as he who appears as the world. This distinction is there. This exact same immediately he quotes Veda. Tadaichata bahusyam prajaye yeti. This Sogameda bahusyam prajaye yeti. He desired, that Atma Padartha desired, and it said, may I become manifold. Tat srishtva tadeva vishara. It created the Jagat and pervaded it. So here, it beautifully shows that this statement, Sogameda bahusyam prajayena, itself shows this. Sogameda, he desired to create the Jagat. This shows the Jagat Niyamaka. He desires to create. He will create when he wants. He will rule it when he wants. He will dissolve it when he wants. This is Vishwara as Jagat Niyamaka. Bahusyam prajayena, may I become manifold as the Jagat. So the desire that I may become manifold shows that Ishvara has morphed as the Jagat, and that so Kamayaka, he desired to create, shows that Ishvara is the controller of the Jagat, through which that control is what he has, which allows him to create, uphold and dissolve it. So now Ishvara is also approached in two ways. So Ishvara as the Jagat is what we call the Vibhuti of the Gita. And Bhagavan says, in rivers and Ganga, in water, in the Sagara, in trees, in Ashwatha, in cows and calm, in elephants, in Airavata, in Rakshasa, and this is Bhagavan appearing as the Jagat. When Bhagavan says, Prabhava Pralayas Phanam Vidhan Tejam Avyayam, Ayat Pitahamasya Jagato Mata Dhata Pitamaha. When Bhagavan says this in Gita, he is speaking as the Jagat Niyamaka. So it is, we have to understand this that Bhagavan is also approached in two ways. When you say Bhagavan and Ishvara, he is Saguna Brahman. He is approached in these twofold ways. So when Bhaskaraya then shows, he very nicely shows Veda, Tantra and Brahma Sutras. He shows all three here in support of that. Then he also shows later that Teshu Jagan Niyamaka. So the Jagan Niyamaka, so not Ishvara who appears as the Jagat, but Ishvara who appears as Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva to control it, takes upon many forms. So it is this one entity that is responsible for Srishti Sthiti Laya, who then takes upon many forms. So there again quotes everything. Tadantam supravel yatinam mandiranam jaiva jnaninam yoginam sabha dhyana puja nimittam hi tanur grandhati mayaya. In order to enable the worship of bhaktas, Bhagavan takes upon many forms, and Ishvara takes upon many forms. And then, to make it even more clear, he then quotes the Brihadaranyaka Purana. Umetkedivahustam shektum lakshmim kathapare bharati tyapariyachayanam girije nambikeja durgeti bhadrakali chendi maheshwari tija kaumari vaishnaviti varahi chapare तथा ब्राह्मणेति विद्यानित्येति मायेति कथापरे प्रकृतिश्च पराचेति वदन्ति परमर्षयः. So all these names, Prakriti, Maya, Vaishnavi, Ishwari, all of these names are various forms that one Paramatma has taken. Because it is Devi, they have all taken the names of various forms of Devi. If it was Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavad has shown the exact same thing in Vishnu's context, Vishnu Sahasranama. So then, एवं स्थिते ब्रह्मणि एवं स्थिते स्वगुणे ब्रह्मणि शक्त्या शब्दानां प्रवृत्ते निराभावेगा. So now when this is the nature of Brahman, that is to say, it is now the Saguna Brahman who is the Jagat Niyamaka, who controls the Jagat, and then who takes upon many names and forms. Praising that Brahman because of the names and forms now is not a problem. If you say I am praising the Nirguna Brahman with names which are applied due to names and forms, that will be a problem. But we have now established that there is a Nirguna Brahman and a Saguna Brahman. That Saguna Brahman also has two aspects. That aspect of those aspects, one aspect is Brahman is the controller of the Jagat, Ishvara is the controller of the Jagat. That entity takes upon many names and forms. Because of the multiplicity name and form there, we can very nicely have 1000 names and 1000 forms also if we want. So there is no problem at all in these 1000 names being used to know Brahman. So this vichara has been done. Then one more thing I quickly got because I think I have been 20 minutes. So one more thing is that, so now these names, what is the point of these names? Are they meant for Tattva Vichara? Are they meant for some Kala? What are these names meant for? So there, very nicely, you observe, Ata Eva, Prakriti, so what kinds of Tattvas are being discussed in these names? Ata Eva Prakriti, Kanijini Namani, Jivavastha Veda Parami Drishyante. Some names talk about the nature of the Jiva, such as Vishwarupa, Ravani, Swatantri, Dainsatmika, Sutta, Prajnatvika. These are the Jiva's names to the Avasthas. So there is one session that will be there in the Saptaha meeting. Only this shloka will be talked about. That is one thing. Then, Saguna Brahma Vishesha Parani, Mukunde Tyagini. There are some names that clearly talk about the Apara Brahman, such as Mukunda, Moksham Dalati iti Mukundaha, Tadeva speaking of Mukunda. That which gives Brahman is Mukunda. This is a function of Ishvara. So some names will be applied to Devi, taking into account her identity as Ishvara. Then, Sthāvara Vishesha Parani Bhaktya. Some, as we said, the second aspect of Ishvara wherein he appears as the Jagat. So some names will be taken as that. For example, Mahini. Mahini means Bhumi. This is Ishvara appearing as the Jagat, of which the Bhumi is also one part of it. So some names talk about the various aspects of the Jagat that Devi appears as. Kanichana Tattat Chatti Parani, Rametyagini. Some names refer to various aspects of Devi's Shakti, such as Rama, Saraswati, that is to say various forms of Devi. And so we have Saraswati, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, then we have Bala, Kali, Mahakali, all these various forms of Devi are also talked about. The various forms of Devi mentioned in Lalitha Sahasranama will be one topic also in these ceremonies. So in this way, there are Nirguna Brahma. Some names explicitly talk about the Nirguna Brahma. Paranjyoti, Miksha Jagat Adhisthana. These are all names of the Nirguna Brahman. Paranjyoti, Parakara, these are all names that describe Brahman in the Nirguna sense. So, Nama Rupa Vivachita, this is also a name that is there. So, all of these names, Dvaita Vachita, Nirvaita, Dvaita Vachita, these are all names that talk about Nirguna Brahman. So many names are there wherein is talked about. Then one more thing is that besides understanding these names, there is obviously also a phala to doing japa of these names. So one thing is that Lalitā Sahasranama as a whole is a mantra. So mantras that are ekaksharas are called pintakas. Mantras that are 3 to 5 letters are called bijas. Mantras that go up until 20 letters are called mantras. Then 20 onwards are called mala mantras. So this is one particular classification. There are many such classifications. But this Lalitā Sahasranama, obviously it has much more than 20 letters, is taken as a mala mantra in its entirety. This aside, each name in this also is individually a mantra. So here, there is a chapter that we don't have to get into, wherein there is an aspect in Shastra wherein, which is in Veda also, wherein a nama can be used in 2 ways. So as we said, a name will be used due to some specific attribute. Like I said, a name, a form, some action, some quality. Taking this into account, some name will be used. Like I said earlier, Govinda, Gopala, Shyama, Venugopalan, these kind of things. So, whichever quality that you see in that name, assuming it is a name that has been given as a mantra, that name will have the ability to bestow that phala upon you. So, for example, Bhaskar Raya gives some examples here. Annakamaha, Annadayi Namaha iti, Vasudamaha, Vasudayi Namaha iti, Dito Bhayatahayi Namaha iti, Patho Brahmamujinye Namaha iti Jadret. So, for example, if you wish to have Anna, if you are asking for food, Annada, that is right, Annadayi Namaha. If you do this name, japa of this name, it will give you food. Because the aspect of Devi being discussed there is Devi's identity as the giver of food. So if you approach this name saying that this name describes Devi as the giver of food and then you do japa of that name, it will give you the phala of Devi giving you food. If you wish to have wealth, Vasudāya Namaha. So if you approach this name as Devi gives wealth, hence she is called Vasudha, and you do japa of that, then it will bestow upon you the phala of Devi giving you wealth. If you say, I am in some apat, I am in some calamity, I need Devi to get rid of this, then you will say, Bhayapahaye Namaha. So if you approach Devi as the remover of troubles, it will give you the phala of Devi remover of troubles. Banshamavachinye Namaha. If you wish to be released from bondage, and you approach Devi as the remover of bondage, it will give you that phala. So the point is, if you approach these names due to their meaning, if you approach these names with the bhavana, with the mindset that Devi is this, so I am telling this name, it will induce that phala. Then Bhaskara Raya says, does this mean that, so in the end of Lalitā Sahasranama there will be phalashiti. Then what are those phalas? See, if the phala of each name is the attribute discussed in the name, then what is the point of the phalashiti? So there is a Siddhanta in Shastra also that if you approach Devi in this way, this is the phala. If you approach saying Devi is that, Annada is actually Paramatma. You don't look at it as the giver of food. There is a Paramatma who is being termed as Annada. Then that will be counted as Paramatma Pasana. If there is not a specific phala, Paramatma Pasana gives all the phalas. That is to say, even Muruga tells us like that. If we approach Saraswati as the Vidya Devata and you worship her only as the Vidya Devata, the fruit of that will be Vidya. If you approach her as Ishvara, the fruit of that will be whatever Ishvara can give you. That is to say, everything. In the same way, his names also, if you take them as describing a particular attribute of Devi, they will give you the result of that attribute. If you meditate upon that name just as referring to Paramatma, it will give you whatever Paramatma can give you. So, these names, but that is not to somehow denigrate using these names for specific purposes. Because these names exist for that. Someone needs wealth, what else will he do? He will do japa Vasudāya Namaha. Someone does not have food to eat, what will he do? He will do Annadāya Namaha. So, in that way, various names are used in various ways. And we get this in Veda also. For example, Mahaityavasita Mahan Bhavati Kannamaityavasita Namyante Esme Kamaha. That is it. This all. For example, you meditate upon the Brahman as Maha, you will become Mahan. These kind Tad Brahma, Tad Brahmyatyavasita Brahmavan Bhavati. Meditate upon that as Brahma. That is the Veda. you will become like Bhagavan. So these kinds of statements are there in Veda. The same maxim is applied to these namas as well. So that is one thing that we have to keep in mind when we look at the namas. So these Phala Bhedas are all talked about. Then one last thing that we will talk about is Linga Vishaya. We very interestingly, so in Sanskrit, words have three genders, masculine, feminine, and middle. We know Pullinga, Ram, Akaram, Ramullinga, Ram, Shabdaha, Akaram, Sringeri, Sita, Shabdaha, Akaram, Pansaklinga, Pura, Shabdaha. This is called red, Pullinga, Rama, Rama, Sringeri, Sita, 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 and Napullinga, Param, Hare, Param. So genders are threefold in Sanskrit. We find names of all three genders in Lalitha Sahasranama. We actually find the same Lalitha Sahasranama as well, and if I very certainly correctly, in Lalitha Sahasranama as well. So, in Devi Sahasranama, Napumsaka Paranjyoti, this is an Napumsaka. Then in some place there is Pullinga, Mahalavanya Shevatihi, Gunadhi, Dayanidhi, these are all Pullinga Shabdas. And of course, then of course there are many Strilinga Shabdas, predominantly they will be the feminine gender. Why is this the case? Why are genders, or why are all three genders presented in various names? The simple reason is given here. Teshu Stri Kum Napumsakalingam Linganam Namnam Vishesha Rupatvena Tesham Kramena Chidatma Brahme Yatnike Vishesha Samantamati. That is all there. Then these lingas natu vastavikam Brahman ekamapi lingam nastre natma ityadi. Brahman does not have a particular linga. That is, the Paramatma that is praised through his Prarthana does not pertain to either the masculine gender, feminine gender, or the neutral gender. So therefore, all three can be applied. And then very nicely, he quotes the Bhagavata Purana. Nastri Nashanto Napuma Najetu. In Bhagavata, it is you are not Sri, you are not one, you are not a Shanda, you are not a Napumsaka. And then he shows that the Upasana of Paramatma is given to all three gods. So there it is, Pumurupam va Smaret Devi, Sri Rupam va Visindayeta, Athava Vishtalam Dhayet Satsivananda Lakshanam. Iti Visheshya Nirdesha Yengava. Linga-dvaya-sadharasya pranavasya ādav prayogaha. So, the form of Paramatma, you can meditate upon Paramatma in a Pulinga form, you can meditate upon Paramatma in a Stri form or in a Napumsaka form. Shastra has given us all of this, Shastra themselves, all of these three. Athava, Nishkalam Jnayat Sachidananda Lakshanam. All the Nirguna Sachidananda Padartha can be meditated upon. So, in this way, because this is the case, lingas, all three lingas have been given. So now, finally, Bhaskaraya actually comments with the Lalitha Sahasranama. We will look at the quick name of three names, and the next speaker is already here, so we will cover that. So this, as we said, is the Lalitha Sahasranama. So we would be remiss if we did not discuss what the word Lalitha means. As I said, Lalitha is the name of Devi as Brahman. That is particular to her. It is not used for any other Devata or any other lower Shakti. So, that is why the way that Bhaskaraya described it is, these 999 names from Srimata up until Shivashakti Rupini, these are all Visheshana, these are all adjectives. Who do these adjectives belong to? Lalitambika. All these names belong to Lalitambika. So the 1000th name is the actual name of Devi. Is just like we say, Govinda, Mukunda, Madhava, Vrindavasara is Krishna. Just as Krishna is the name. Everything else are adjectives that talk about Krishna. Dasharati, Sitapati, all are Rama's names. In the same way, Srimata, Sri Maharati, all are Lalita's names. So in this way, Lalita is the final word. Why is the name Lalita? He quotes from Shloka. Lalite Nama Yukham. The word Lalita means Marga, tenderness. Because she is so tender in mercy, she is called Lalita. And to show that one Shloka it is Lalite Nama Yukham. Tavakal Divya Mahaprabhapunayaha. Dhanuraikshan. Astranyati Kusumani. Tava Akhilam Lalitam. In fact, Devi, you are so tender that everything about you has become tender. You Usually everyone has a bow and arrow. Bows and arrows are meant to inflict pain upon other people. No one wants bows and arrows to be sweet and friendly. Bows and arrows are meant to be tough, cruel and rigid. However, you are so tender that your bow has become a sweet sugar cane and your arrows have become flowers. That is how tender you are. So this tenderness of yours is so clearly seen that the name Lalitā is very appropriate. One more name is there. The name Lalitam means Saundarya. Srinam Vigasa Dubhoka Vibhrama Lalitam Tatha. The beauty, Saundarya of a Stree is referred to as Lalitam. She that has that, the Asha, the name Sanskriта, you will get Lalitam Asyaha Astiti Lalitā. She who has that charm is Lalitā. That is to say, she is the repository of all the beauty that exists in the world. Okay, that is why Bhagavad called her as a Saundarya Lahari. If all the Saundarya is taken into one place and we make it a flow, that is Devi. So that beauty, everything that is beautiful in this world is her own manifestation. This is not what Devi said. Krishna Paramatma also says this. Yad yad vibhoti vat sattvam shrima gurjita devava tatta deva vat sattvam mama deva sattvam. Paramatma clearly said, anything you see that is glorious, anything that is utkrishta, anything that is great, know that to be my aspect in that. So greatness, Shri, Shobha, all of this is her expression. So the Paramatma that said that in Gita is now being meditated upon as Lalitā. Then, one more thing is there. Obviously, then these are all the general meanings as per the Rupa. Now you look at the meaning as per the Deva. Lokanatithya Lalate, Lalitā tena gochyate. This is the definition given in the Padma Purana. Because she sports having transcended all the worlds, she is called Lalitā. The Lal Dhatu means to play. Krida refers to Santosha, Ananda. So something that you do happily is called Krida. Because she sports having transcended the worlds, she is called Lalitā. So now the meaning here is the Loka, the word Loka, especially in Sri Vidya, refers to the Avarana Devatas. As you know in the Sri Vidya, the Sri Chakra is very important. The Sri Chakra has 9 Avaranas, 9 Prakaras, then 9 enclosements. Each is circulated, each is situated within the other. So starting from the Bhupura, which is the outermost one, to the Bindu. So the Bindu, then the Trikona, then the Vasukona, then the Dashara Yugma, Manvashna, Nagadana Samyuta, Shodasharam, Vrittatrayamcha, Dharani Sadanatrayamcha, Sri Chakrarajavita, Paradevataya. So in this shloka, the entire structure is Sri Chakra. So these all are the 9 layers of the Sri Chakra. This is much easier, this is very easy to see when you make it a Meru. So the Sri Chakra, 2D is Sri Chakra, 3D is Meru. So each avarana will be raised until the point at the end will be the Bindu. So each avarana will be clearly seen there. Each point in these avaranas is presided over by a different aspect of Devi's Shakti. These are what we call the avarana devatas. For example, in the Sarvadogahara Chakra, you will find all the devatas that decide over speech. In this way, each avarana has different devatas. So, because if you cross all of these avarana devatas, which are referred to as lokas, in Sri Vidya, these devatas are called as loka, that is the word. So, because she sports having crossed all of these, that is to say, you cross the first 8 avaranas and she is the Bindu Mandala Madhyastha. In that Bindu she sports. So, because she transcends those lokas and sports in the middle, she is called Lalitā. As per the devata, this is the meaning. Now, every single name of every devata will actually have a name that pertains to the Nirguna Parama. So that is also seen here. So I said this Lal Dhatu, the root, the Sanskrit root Lal means to play, that is to say to be happy. So this word Lalitam will be what we call the Bhava, it will be a Bhavartha Pratyaya. So what we mean by this in Sanskrit is, it refers to the action itself, just as Gamanam means the action of going, or Sthanam refers to the action of staying, or Adavam refers to the action of eating. In the same way, the word just as Gamanam means the action of going, Gatam also means the action of going. In the same way, just as Asanam means the act of sitting, in the same way, Asitam also means the act of sitting. In the same way, just as Lalanam means the act of playing or the quality of playing. Lalitam also means to play, to be happy. So basically the word Lalitam means Anandaha. If you put that to Strilinga, that will become Lalita. So basically, she whose true nature is nothing other than Shuddha Ananda is Lalita. That is why in the same Padma Purana Vasana, Loka Naditya Lalate. She is the Ananda that transcends the Lokas. So all Anandas are bound by the world. All Anandas are bound by the nature of the objects as Bhagavan says, Adhyanta. They all have a start date and an expiry date. Every Ananda that you have or every object that you experience has a start date and a finish date. So that is the nature of the world. But Brahmananda is not like that. The Ananda that is the nature of Brahman is not like that. It is Satyam, which means it is existent in all three times without change, and then Ananda Brahma. So where is very clear about that. So that Ananda that transcends the Jagat, that pure Ananda which is Lalitam is Lalita. So that Devi who is nothing other than pure Satchidananda is Lalita Devi. So then the first name we have Sri Mata, Sri Maharaji, Sri Sahasranāma. If we had any doubt that this was Brahma Vidya, Maharaj will clearly shows that how is Brahman supposed to be known? How is Veda shown as Brahman? Yatova imani bhutani jayante, yena chatani jivanti, yet prayam yahisamvishanti. That from which all beings emanate, that through which all beings are sustained, that into which all beings dissolve. That is Brahman. Know that. So this is the benchmark that has been given to know Brahman. That is exactly what is being told in Sri Mata, Sri Maharaji, Sri Sahasranāma. She is Sri Mata. She is the greatest of Devis. Then she is the greatest of mothers. Sri Maharajni. She rules this world. She is an empress. Srimad Sahasranāma. Here it is taken such that, well, I'll explain that. So the word Sahasranāma denotes Devi's capacity to perform Laya. So in this way, the Srishti Layas are shown in the first three names. Sri Mata. So here, the word, actually, it might be the second letter, I will say because it's nice. The way Bhasaraya starts is, he says, Loke Dukkha Dashayam Madhusmaranam Prasiddham. The first name is Sri Mata. It is common in the world that whenever we fall into trouble, we first think of our mother. Right? Whenever someone hits it, we say, Amma. Right? That is the first thing that comes to our mouth without any prayer. And then he says, Anubhutasko Matagaha na Tavaprayaharana Samarthaha. We think of our mothers when we are in trouble. But it is clearly evident that these mothers are incapable of removing our troubles. Right? You have 10,000 debt to the bank. 10 lakhs, you are in debt. You say, Amma, what will that Amma do? Right? There are only so many things that a tiger is chasing you. You say, Amma, what will that Amma do? Right? So there is a certain point in life where all mothers become incapable of protecting the children though they may want to. And in the highest sense, we are all stuck in samsara. However many times we cry for a mother, we will end up becoming born to one more mother. But the mother will not be able to remove all samsara. However, there is one mother who surpasses all other mothers because she can do what other mothers cannot, which is remove any trouble that we have. All mothers are limited in that they can only remove some troubles, they cannot remove all troubles. Here is one mother who is a mother to every single being. Abrahmaniya Janani. From an ant up until Chaturmukha Brahma, she is the mother of each and every being. Here is a mother that is capable of removing the trouble of each and every being in this cosmos. So she is the greatest mother, Sri Mata. One more thing is that all mothers give birth to limited beings. One mother gives birth to 2 children, 3 children these days. 2 generations there, give it 1 children. But no, clearly should not be 84 lakhs of Jivakotis. Such a birth rate is there only for Paramatma. So the Paramatma who has given rise to more beings than any other mother ever has is the greatest among mothers. That is why she is Sri Mata. So it is one non-clear in Shastra that the greatest of anything will use the prefix Sri. Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. There are many people who teach many things. But the Guru who uses Brahmajnana is the greatest of Gurus. So we say Sri Guru Bhyo Namaha. And Shastra, there are many mountains in the world. But the mountain seeing whose peak itself is moksha is Sri Shaiya. Sri Shaiya Vishwaram Vishwa Punarjanayandite. In the same way, there are many yantras, but the yantra whose upasana paddhati is most talked about is the Shri Chakra. In this way, the word Shri is used wherever excellence is there. So, out of all the matas in the world, out of all the mothers in the world, Shri is given. Then, one more aspect. The Brahman being the cause of the Jagat necessitates that Brahman should also be omniscient. Right? Only someone who is omniscient can create everything. So that is also hinted at in this name. The word Shri is used in the Veda to refer to the Vedas. Which is Sama, Yajo, Mushe, Sahasranāma, Amrita, Sadam. The Rik, Sama, Yajo mantras that make up the corpus of the Vedas are referred to by the word Shri. Shri, who has taught these Vedas to Brahma in the beginning of the cosmos, is Shri Mata. That is to say, that entity that is omniscient and is the first teacher of the Vedas is Shri Mata. So, in so many different ways, the meaning of Shri Mata is given to show that Shri Mata shows that she is the Srishtikartri. It is from her. She is the Brahma Padanta from which the entire world comes out. Shri Maharajni, this is very clear. Just as a king rules over his kingdom, in the same way she rules over this cosmos that she has created. Simhasaneshwari. So, here she talks about one thing that this Simhasana, Devi sitting on a lion, is one aspect that is very particular to Devi as the destroyer of Rakshasa. For example, when Devi is Mahisha, she is given the name Simhasaneshwari. So, when Devi does Samhara of Rakshasas, because she sits on a lion while doing that, this name Simhasaneshwari denotes Devi's capacity as a lioness. She who does samsara. In a more, this is only Devi who does samsara of Rakshasas. Who does samsara of the Jagat? That is also hinted wherein the word Simha comes from the word Himsa. In some words Sanskrita, they will come from the word being flipped. For example, the word Shiva comes from the root Vashakanta, Vashi. Vashi becomes Shiva. Pashyaka will become Kashyapa. So, this is a particularity of Nirukta in Vyakarana in our Shastras wherein sometimes word will be flipped. So, the derivation of the word Simha comes from the word Himsa. Because a lion torments other animals, it is called Simha. In the same way, she who does Himsa to this entire Jagat at the time of Laya is called Himsaya Asanam, Shepaha. Asanam means to throw something, to push it away. So, because through Himsa, she throws out this entire Jagat, she gets rid of this entire Jagat. She is called Shrimat Simhasana and she is very capable of that. So, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari. So, in these three names, the Yapova Imam Bhotani Jayante, Yena Jatani Jayanti, Yadurayam Terisam Vishanti. The fact that the Devi that we are talking about here is that Brahman, that Ishvara from whom this word originates, due to whom it is sustained and into whom it again dissolves. That is clearly shown here. Then Bhaskar Rai very nicely says there are Panchakrityas. That will form the top one of the subject of one day's talk, wherein the Srishti Sthiti Laya, Tirodhana Anugraha. So the creation, sustenance and dissolution, as well as covering jivas with ajnana and then uncovering them again by revealing jnana. So, this process of giving jnana and removing ajnana are contained in the Tirodhana and Anugraha. To tell these two things, the rest of the 997 names have been told. To show how Devi gives jnana and how Devi removes ajnana. Also names due by knowing which we can get rid of our ajnana and get jnana. And then as I said, the 1000th name is Lalitha, which refers to Devi both it talks about her form, how tender her form is, her nature, how tender her heart is, her form, how beautiful her form is, her nature as a Upasya Devata, that she transcends the Avarana Devatas, and also her identity as Paramatma, wherein she transcends all Lokika Anandas. Her Swarupa is that Ananda which is beyond anything that this world can provide. She is the Brahmananda. So, that is a very lengthy introduction we have done this now. And the speakers are already here. So, now that we know why this Lalitha Sahasranama is there, I think we will pay double attention to ensure that we use it both to worship Devi and it is also Vedanta Shravana at the same time. It is both worship and Vedanta. Both of these, through the grace of the Jagat Gurus, we will be able to do for the next week. And with this, I will end this session. भूमोत्कृतपादानां भूमिदेवार्जुनं वैजाताराधानां